I'm really happy to be here again. This time the interview will be in English. You know that my content is mostly Spanish, but I wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to introduce someone that I followed for a while through Instagram, and I've learned a little bit about her story. But I'm really happy that today we can get to know her better and know about her story, how she started the career that she's doing, how her life was before she started doing or going to college. So that's I'm really excited today. So Aidé, if you wanna introduce yourself, tell your name, say where you're from, and what are you doing right now.
Yeah, thank you for having me. So, my name is Aidé Hernández, and I'm from Chicago. My family is from Mexico, and I am a sociology candidate. So, I'm in my fifth year of my PhD program.
Awesome. Do you want to start by telling us how did your parents decide to come to the US and how long ago that was?
Yeah, my parents immigrated to Chicago when they were teenagers. So, my mom actually first got to Los Angeles, but moved to Chicago. My dad came straight to Chicago, and they didn't know each other prior to immigrating. So, they met here through work.
Awesome. And do you have more siblings?
Yes, I have two younger brothers, so I'm the oldest and the only daughter.
Oh, that's awesome. How was that growing up, being like the oldest daughter, you know?
Yeah, I think it's very gendered. So I had a lot of gendered responsibilities. Being the oldest, I was always like my mom's sidekick. So I would always help her in the house, outside of the house. We would run errands a lot. So I think it was a lot of heavy responsibilities being the oldest daughter.
Yeah, and how is the, I guess something that I always wonder, when you have like parents that are from another country, but you are born in like the US, how's that,
Yeah.
how did you feel when you were in school? How was that change? How did that change the dynamic, like having, classmates or had like their parents are having always in the US, I guess.
Yeah. So I grew up in a very traditional Mexican household. I learned Spanish as my first language, and being in Chicago, there's a big Mexican population here. So I think growing up, I was always in communities of color, predominantly Mexican communities. So growing up, I really didn't see myself as being different because my peers were Mexican, they spoke Spanish, and that wasn't different. What was different, I think, was being able to learn English in school. So my parents were able to help me when I was younger with homework, but then as I got older, they couldn't help me because they didn't know how to read English. And that was difficult. And I think as I moved up in higher education, it became more difficult explaining college and all of that, like career stuff. But aside from that, I think like culturally, I have been pretty much keeping up with my Mexican traditions.
Awesome. What did your parents work on whenever they got to the US?
Yeah, they work factory jobs, so that's where they met at a factory. But my dad is a very big role model in my life. He's a businessman, so he has two businesses now. He got his own construction business when we were growing up. So he did contracting work, but then he founded his own business, and now he has a restaurant business as well. So my mom helps him with his businesses.
What were like the expectations that they had on you when you were a kid that you remember?
I don't think they had explicit expectations for me. I just knew that I had to do good in school, and they told me to echarle ganas, to do my best whenever I could. But there wasn't an explicit, like, you need to do this. I think the only expectation was really like, you need to go to college, which was just undergrad, getting my bachelor's. I don't think there was a big emphasis on graduate school, so I didn't know what graduate school was growing up. I think the emphasis was whatever you do, just do your best and kind of aim for stability and financial comfort. However, that looks like, I think they gave me a lot of freedom for that.
Yeah. And how will a day in your family look like whenever you were a kid, like 9 to 10 years old, I guess?
How did my family look like?
Like how would that day in your family, like a normal day, will look like in your family when you're a kid?
Yeah, so that's a very specific age because my youngest brother was born when I was 10. So
Okay, yeah.
we had a newborn. It was me, my oldest brother. So we're all 5 years apart. So there was a newborn, my 5-year-old brother, and then me. So being in middle school, I think that you bring that up, that specific time. We had just moved into our house. So we were like 1 year into our house. We had a newborn. I was in a new neighborhood at a new school. So there was a lot of changes during that specific time.
Was there any change, like cultural change, or there was like the same like type of community that you had, like Mexican community?
Yeah, we moved to a Mexican community. Well, it was kind of like 50-50. It was Mexican and Polish. So it was a big immigrant community. My middle school that I had transferred to was predominantly Mexican. There were a few Puerto Rican students, but we were mainly Latino.
That's awesome. Yeah. When did you start, or you still speak Spanish to your parents, or
Mhm.
do you speak English and then they reply in Spanish to you?
No, I just speak Spanish to both of my parents.
And like what at one point, I guess, did you feel like do you feel more comfortable speaking English or Spanish? What is like better for you, I guess, when you
Yeah,
are in a different setup?
Yeah, I think I'm pretty comfortable speaking in Spanish, but speaking in Spanish when I'm talking about school or when I'm talking about things that I'm doing, I can't really translate. I've tried a few times and I really have to rehearse it and write a script in Spanish because there's a lot of technical words like describing my education, but I
Mhm.
think I'm pretty good at interchanging and speaking Spanglish. But with my family, I only speak Spanish.
That's great. I feel that, well, I just have 5 years here in the US, but
Mhm.
I like now that I've learned a lot of words in English, my words in Spanish, like I'm forgetting some of them. And
Yeah.
it's really weird because like I feel I don't even have like a good English, but I'm forgetting my Spanish. So I think it'll be really nice for me. Like even today, like someone said something in English and I took like 10 seconds to process what they
Mhm.
were saying. So I think it will be really nice if you like have like that capacity, like the one that you have to be like someone says something in Spanish and English and you're able to like reply and like know
Yeah.
what's going on in a second. So that's great.
Yeah.
So how was when you were a teenager, did
Mhm.
you feel at any point that like something, did you notice any change like in your way to be compared to other students, or it was always the same? You had like that Mexican community. Did you at some
Mhm.
point went out or to meet another or to have another type of experiences besides like staying at that school?
Yeah, I think my first culture shock was in high school. So in high school, I commuted to a school outside of my community. So I met a lot of people from different backgrounds. That was like ethnic, racial, religious backgrounds. And it was a culture shock because I had just grown up with Mexican peers. The most like cultural difference was my peers who were Puerto Rican. So that was a very big difference that I had experienced in my life. But I think moving on from there, the settings that I was in just became more and more diverse.
Yeah. And I guess, how does someone decides that you want to major like in the field that you are in? When you went to college, were you sure what you wanted to do?
No, so when I declared my first major, so my first year in undergrad, I was an elementary education major and I took a few classes off the bat my first semester and I realized that that's not what I wanted. So I switched to being undeclared. I also transferred institutions my first year because my first semester I was at a Christian PWI and I did not feel comfortable at all. I didn't like the environment. And because I was no longer going to do elementary education, it didn't seem like there was a reason for me to stay at that school. I had only gone there to major in that because they were a teaching institution. And so I transferred and became undeclared. It wasn't, I think, until I finished my gen eds in my first 2 years that I declared to be a major in social work and women and gender studies. I
Mhm.
really like the field of social work because I was doing a lot of community organizing here in Chicago. I was working with a community organization throughout my whole high school and undergrad. So it felt like a really good match because I was working in the community and I was doing a lot of what would entail social work. So that's when I decided to declare those two majors in undergrad.
When you said declare and undeclare, is like could you explain those terms? I at least I
Yeah.
haven't heard them.
Yeah, in undergrad, so whenever you apply to undergrad, you can have an intended major. So you could say like, I want to study education, nursing, and all of that. But you can also apply and be undeclared. So that means you're not housed in a specific department because you're still weighing out your options of what you want to study.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. So when you went to college, at what point did you, I guess you're now living by yourself or like living outside your parents' household. How is that move? When did you decide to move and how was that moving out of your house?
So I was a commuter in undergrad. So I lived at home for years, and it wasn't until my master's program that I moved out. So I moved away 2 hours from Chicago, and that was my first time moving away. I will say my parents didn't take it as good because I was moving away. And like I said, I'm the oldest, I'm the only daughter. I was helping my mom a lot, so I had a lot of household responsibilities. And I think because it was graduate school and college is a new experience for both my parents and I, they didn't really understand what that meant. Like, I'm gonna move away for school. This is why I'm gonna move away. So I think explaining that, having that conversation with my parents was something new about I'm moving out of my house. And I think I was kind of explicit that like if I move out, I don't really think I'm gonna move back in. It's kind of just like I'm moving out.
Wow, that's interesting. You know,
Yeah.
it's interesting because well, at least when that happened to me, I moved when I was in college, but I really thought that I was gonna go back home. Like I was like wanted to go back home, and that realization came to me when I was in my master's. But you really knew that you wanted like didn't go like weren't gonna go back home. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So when you were so you said that you were in college and then you started like being 2 years, you decided to study it's in sociology, right? Or was
Social work.
social work.
Mhm.
When did you had anything like did you do anything related to research when you were in your undergrad, or were you were only mainly taking classes and then like I think you have like a spot where you can go and like do an internship, I guess.
Yeah. No, I didn't do research in undergrad. So my major was mainly focused on practicum. So I did have an internship that I had to do for undergrad.
So you did have an internship.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
How was that? Like, how was that? Where did you do it?
I worked at a mental health agency, so I was one of their bilingual interns. I was doing intakes and doing a lot of case management to fulfill the requirements for my social work major.
Yeah, and how did you then decide that you wanted to do a master's and what specifically you wanted to study?
Yeah, I think getting the master's in social work was just kind of like the safest route at the moment. And so my peers were applying to social work, grad school programs, and I did an accelerated program. It was fully funded. And so it just felt like a really safe option for me to do that if I did want to continue practicing social work. Like it was like, okay, it's gonna be an easy thing to do, get it out of the way, and then I can work afterwards. So it was kind of just something that I didn't really think about. Like, I didn't even know about a master's program until I was in my senior year of undergrad. So I didn't fully understand what graduate school was. I kind of just saw my peers were taking that route. And so that's what I did as well.
Yeah. When you were in college, how did you pay for tuition and all that?
So I was, for the most part, fully funded in undergrad, except my last year, or I think it was my junior, my senior year, my family's financial situation changed. So I didn't qualify for financial aid. What I did to supplement that was I was part of the honors college and we had reserved money for scholarships. So I would just apply to scholarships and whatever was left over, my parents would help pay for that. But I will say it was probably no more than $3,000 that they probably had to pay for my whole undergrad. For my master's program, I was fully funded as well. Whatever fees weren't covered, my family and myself paid. I had 2 jobs when I was in my master's program, and now being in my PhD program, I'm fully funded as well. So I pay like $700 for health insurance every semester.
Were you a good student while in college? Like, were you always a good student throughout your education?
I will say I was, yes. I have been.
Do you think that comes from like the pressure that you had like to be good when you were like, that was like something that you had, or is something that it's because you really like it, like studying or like working on that?
Yeah, I would say it's a combination of both. Like like I mentioned, I didn't have that pressure from my parents, like you need to pass straight A's. It was just kind of like, well, I can do this and it's pretty easy for me. So I think it was a combination of both. Like I've always loved being in school, so that has been easy. And yeah, I don't think no me cuesta tanto, I would say.
Mm-hmm. That's good. And so when you started your master's, you said that you didn't have the realization of what a master's was.
Yeah.
Did you face any challenge because of that?
I don't think so. I feel like I've always had peers that I was going through similar journeys with. So we would kind of help each other. Whatever I didn't know, they would let me know. Whatever I knew, I would share information. So I don't think there was a lot of surprises. I just anticipated that it was going to be more rigorous, and it really was.
Hmm. What was your work on during your master's? Like, what did you do?
Like the jobs that I had.
Yeah, like I guess did you have to do research, or how does a master in social work
Yeah.
look like, I guess?
So it's similar to undergrad. Research isn't really a focus, it's more practicum. So we did have to do an internship, but prior to doing the internship, I had a research assistantship. So I worked at the School of Social Work Research Center. I was doing research on children in foster care. So that wasn't my research, but it was a job that I was able to land. So I was a research assistant, and then I was also a graduate assistant at their tutoring center that was exclusively for minority students. So I was supervising the tutors at the center.
I feel like what you're saying, it looks like you had like your schedule pretty busy.
Yeah.
How is that? Like, what did you like? And then, like, how will that day look like being in a master's like that, having those jobs?
Yeah, so the master's program was accelerated, so I had to take classes. We were mainly in lectures, like 3 hours at a time. They didn't have like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or a Tuesday, Thursday. It was pretty much like one day you take the whole class. So I worked around the class schedule. Sometimes I was able to pick up short shifts, especially because I was employed by the institution. They kind of knew what a student schedule looked like. So I was able to drop in and do hours here and there. So I mainly worked around my class schedule, and a day to day was kind of just like going to class, going to either of my jobs. I tried my best to be active on campus. But it took some time to like really find the communities at first. So that's what I tried to do on a daily basis. But I was pretty much busy. And I was coming home pretty often on the weekends too, because I was a 2 hour drive.
Yeah, that's nice. What was the main challenge that you would say you had during your master's?
My main challenge, I think, was determining my next step. So thinking about like, am I going to continue with school, or am I going to apply to jobs? So I think like, because the program was very short, it was only 12 months. It was a lot that I had to consider in a short amount of time as I'm trying to finish the master's program.
So your master's, you finished in 1 year?
Yeah, so when you do a major in social work in undergrad, your senior year counts as year one of a master's program. So
Mhm.
you're technically in year two of the program, unless you have a different undergrad major. So, like, if you were doing psychology, then you would have to do 2 years for your master's in social work.
Did you have to write like a thesis or something during your master's?
We didn't, no. Like the
Okay.
emphasis is pretty much on practicum, so we didn't have to do like research or a thesis at all.
Okay. So then how did you determine that what you wanted to do next?
So, because I had initially declared a major in elementary education for undergrad, I kind of circled back to doing that for my PhD. So, I've always wanted to be a teacher in any sort of capacity. And I realized that I like teaching in the college classroom versus like K through 12. So, I decided to pursue a PhD to be a professor and to do it in the field of sociology. So I switched from social work to sociology because I wanted to have more intersectional conversations on the research that was interesting to me at the time.
That's interesting. And then, so what year was that when you finished your master's?
I finished my master's in 2019.
2019. Okay. And then did you start your PhD right after your master's?
Yeah, I had like 2 weeks off.
Wow. How did you decided where you wanted to apply and how did you find the professor that you are working on now?
So I decided to apply honestly based on location. So I originally wanted to move out of Chicago. I just wanted to have a different experience living in a different city. So honestly, the only cities that I applied to were Los Angeles, New York, and Chicago. So that was the only determining factor of where I was going to go for my PhD program.
Did you apply for sociology in all three places?
Yeah, I did.
And how was that application process for you?
So, because I had applied to the master's programs, I think like all of my materials were like fresh because I had just applied to graduate school a year prior. So, I think applying for my PhD was a little bit easier because I had my story written out, I had all of my supplemental documents. What was more work was like including the experience that I got in my master's program. So, like the research and the graduate assistantship, that's what I had to add. And then typically for PhD programs, you have to write about your research. So, I think those were the only things that I really had to focus on. And I don't think I applied to a lot of schools for my PhD because I was very restricted in where I wanted to live.
What how did you decide like how did you make that decision or had that mindset that you wanted to live only in those three places? What were your determining factors for that?
I wanted to be with people of color. So I wasn't going to live in the middle of nowhere because that's where my master's program was. And I hated it. So I was born and raised in Chicago. So I wanted to be in a city where it kind of felt similar to what I've been used to.
That's interesting. So will that like account for like, like Latino communities, like big Latino communities where you are able to speak Spanish, I guess, where you can like hang out with like people that like understand your background and where you're from, I guess.
Yeah, because being in grad school is difficult as is, and I didn't want like those social issues of feeling isolated to be packed up on me trying to finish the program.
So you felt like that when you were in your master's.
Say that again?
You felt like that when you were in your master's, like you were like,
Yeah, I was at a PWI. I did have a few friends that were predominantly other Latinas.
mhm.
But it was a very small group of us. Like it makes a difference when you can go outside of your institution and have things to do that speak to you.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. I guess that's something that I didn't think of like when you and that's what I when I was like asking you about your family and all that, I thought that you will be more like in on the other side, like not feeling understood by the Latino community. But I see
Mhm.
it's like otherwise. You feel like really like more into the Latino community than like, like feeling more into, because and that's normal, like we all have like different tastes and we like to be with different people, but I
Mhm.
always thought that you would feel more like into being with around people that is like from the US. I don't know, I just felt that that was like the case.
Yeah, I think that's the assumption of a lot of first generation born.
Hmm.
But like I said, I grew up in a traditional household. Like, it's funny when I go to Mexico, my family's like, "Oh, do you eat this?" And I'm like, "This is what I eat on a daily basis. Like, I can communicate with you, and this is exactly what I eat. We just live in different parts of the world."
And that's nice too, because I feel that no one, like not everyone has that experience, and it's nice that your family kept you with the same traditions, the same cultures. Like as you said, you just feel that you're like in another part of the country, in another part, but like you're
Mhm.
still Mexican and you're like still keeping those traditions and cultures with you. And I
Yeah.
guess that's what I wanted to like talk to you, because I feel, as you said, that we make a lot of assumptions, and having these spaces allow for people to know like what really you went through while you were a student until now that you're like picking your field, where like you're already accomplishing a lot of things, but where that come from is interesting because it comes from all
Yeah.
that you went through like your life. So that's nice.
Mhm.
So can you talk a little bit about your research whenever, so you end up staying at Illinois, right?
Yeah, I'm in
For your
Chicago.
PhD. Yeah. Can you talk about a little bit about your research and what you do?
Yeah, so I came into my sociology program as an immigration scholar. So that's the type of work that I've done in undergrad, and my master's program is looking at the experiences of Latino mixed status family in the US. So I grew up in a mixed status family. My parents were undocumented growing up. I was a US citizen, so are my brothers. So there's a lot that we kind of experience that's different. So a lot of my peers who were predominantly not Latino were able to travel and do a lot of things that we didn't have access to. So
Mhm.
growing up, that made a difference in my experience and my perspective on the world. And also, given a lot of harsh immigration laws and rhetoric that had social emotional impacts as well on the whole family. So that's what my research was coming into my PhD program. But the more that I got integrated in the field of sociology, I shifted. So now I'm doing research on the experiences of Latina graduate students. So I conducted interviews with master's and PhD Latinas on their experiences of getting in their grad program, what it's like to be a Latina grad student, and what are some of the things that they wish they had in terms of support, so like resources that they wish they had to make the process a little bit easier.
When I was going through your Instagram profile, I learned that
Mhm.
if you want to do a like interviews with people like for
Mhm.
research, you need to get a special permit for
You
that.
need to get what?
Like a special permit to do that. I don't know, like you have to ask for like certain permit.
Yeah, you need to ask your institution to approve your research project.
That's interesting. I wouldn't think that was like something that you needed to do. When I was reading, I was like, wow, that's a new thing I learned.
Yeah, it's a very difficult process.
Yeah, I learned that you were like several months like trying to get that permit.
Mhm.
So I guess that whenever you, for me, it's really nice and interesting that you are also studying something that is very personal to
Mhm.
you. And I
Yeah.
guess that makes you be more passionate about what you do.
It makes it easier for sure.
Yeah. So going back to, you started your PhD in 2019, right?
Yes.
And then I was seeing that you started your Instagram page in 2021.
Mhm.
How did um how did the idea of creating that page come along to you?
Yeah, I followed one page, which is Latina Grad Guide, that's run by Valerie, who's now one of my really good friends. I followed her page and I really like seeing all of the things that she was doing. And so I felt like a similar calling to opening a platform like that to share my experience. So I know she's from California, I know she's studying education, and I kind of wanted to do a twist to that as well and share my experience growing up in Chicago, doing my PhD in sociology, and what that looks like.
And how's the start for that? I really like the first post that you made. And like if you can explain and talk about, like, I know that you picked like cactus as
Yeah.
kind of an insignia. So if you want to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the what is it called? Not, I don't want to say like the logo, but pretty much the logo to the page was a cactus. And so in undergrad, I took I think it was an English English class that was like on poems and rhetoric. And so I came across this poem that I never found on the internet again, but it was a poem about a cactus and how typically we think that roses entail like beauty and yeah, that roses entail beauty, right? But nobody ever talks about the power of cactuses. So a cactus can withhold any type of situation and environment that it's in. If it is hot, it has stored water for it to survive. If it's cold, it'll stand strong. It doesn't require a lot to survive. And so I felt that very resonating in terms of being first generation. I'm Mexican as well, so the cactus already has like a very strong symbolic meaning. But I really like the poem that basically argued like a rose is really pretty and it'll last you a couple of days, but it'll die and it's very fragile compared to a cactus that has like the meaning of strength and persistence.
Yeah, that's nice. And how did your so your page is called Grad Communal, right?
Yeah.
That's like the name. So how did your page start like growing? Where when did you notice like you were getting more followers, more people were coming into your page?
I think it took a couple of years, but I was very persistent. I knew that growing a social media platform takes a lot of time, and it takes a lot of time to create content. And so I think I was aware of that, and it is very hard to just stay consistent. So it took a couple of years. I feel like now I've kind of slowed down just because at the beginning I knew I have to produce way more than I have. Recently, I was posting probably like 2 times a day, and now I post maybe like 3 times a week. So it definitely has decreased, but I think that the community is like stronger than ever right now.
Do you feel that that's a lot of work too, like when you start doing it, and I guess how you divide your day to decide what you're gonna do and like how long you're gonna work on certain things rather
Yeah.
than others.
100%. I think when it came to content at the beginning, it was very time consuming. Like there was a lot of hours that were spent on recording, editing, posting, interacting. But I think now it's a little bit easier. Like with practice, it just gets easier. I don't schedule content now. I used to before, but now it kind of just like, oh, if it comes to me, I'll record something.
Mhm.
And it'll maybe take a couple of tries for me to get it right, but it's not as structured as when I first started.
And what have been the benefit for you to have that page? What we started with the focus, how has that been accomplished too?
Yeah, I think socially it's been very beneficial. So I've made a lot of good friends, like I mentioned, with other creators. I've met a lot of creators that like live outside of Chicago, so we've have like virtual friendships and we're able to support each other. But then I've also met a lot of people in Chicago through social media. So that has been really nice. And also getting partnerships has been really nice as a PhD student on a stipend, getting some financial supplement to my life has been very nice as well.
That's awesome. You said that you always wanted to teach. Have you been able to do that throughout your PhD, or how have you looked for that, I guess?
Yeah, so I've been able to teach at my institution. So the last 2 summers, I've been the instructor for two sociology classes, and then this summer is my first summer off. So I'm not teaching this summer, but I'll be back in the classroom in the fall.
What are you teaching in the fall?
I'm teaching sociology of Latinos.
Oh, really? There's a class about that? What's
Yeah.
like the main things that you talk about like during that class? Like what are like the main?
Yeah, so I've never taught the class. I've been a TA for the class and I took the class as a student, but basically it's kind of just about issues that impact Latinos. So that could be Latinos born in the US, Latinos who immigrate to the US, kind of just like a plethora of what it's like to be a Latino living in the US.
That's very interesting. That's nice that you can like. I feel that like living the experience plus like getting the knowledge, like it makes you really nice.
Mhm.
Um, so I also saw that you won like a teaching award a couple of
Yeah.
months ago. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I was nominated for the Graduate Student Teaching Award, and I basically just had to write a statement as to what my teaching philosophy is, the type of work that I've done in the classroom. And so I was able to get that award this past semester.
That's awesome. Yeah, and thinking about like how you're really passionate about teaching, I guess
Mhm.
like receiving that award also like makes it like even nicer, I guess, for you.
Yeah, it's reassuring for sure.
Yeah, I guess it is. So what do you think are the main accomplishments that you've gotten throughout your PhD?
I will say I've gotten a few fellowships, like fellowships, scholarships. I think that has been the most beneficial and rewarding. So either coming with opportunities or scholarships, I think has made the process a little bit easier because I don't have to worry about getting a certain experience that I need or getting my tuition paid for. I think that has made things much easier.
Yeah. And what do you look to work on whenever you finish your PhD?
Yeah, so I am thinking about doing research outside of the academy. So I'm not sure if that's gonna be like if I'm gonna go full into the professor route, but I will be doing research in some capacity.
Yeah, how long do you have in your program?
I'm
Like,
finishing up this upcoming year.
oh, really? How does it
Mhm.
feel?
I can't wait to be done. I've been in my program so long and I've been in school for so long. I know people say that, once you're done being a student, obviously there's a change because we've been in school our whole lives, right? It's a big identity for us. And so I know it's going to be like a very hard thing to get adjusted to, but I'm tired of being on a stipend and I can't wait to have a full-time job.
I also think that you never stop thinking about your research and what you do once you're in a PhD. Like your brain keeps working like all day, and that's hard.
Yeah, it's not a 9 to 5, like it's an all day thing. And there's always something to do.
What do you do outside your PhD that like keeps you on track of things, I guess? Like maybe
Yeah.
hobbies or things like that.
So it's nice in Chicago now. So I think we all take advantage of the 3 months of summer that we have before it gets cold again. I've been running, I've been going to the park more. I like to check out like new restaurants for dinner and drinks, go to shows, stuff like that. Really anything that's gonna keep me busy. I I'm way past the fact that my life revolves around school. So once I'm done doing something, like I'm done. I'm not thinking about it anymore. So it's really nice to just like despegarme from doing that because like you mentioned, if you let it, it's gonna consume you to think about research and to think about school all day, every day. So I think after my second year in my PhD program, I was able to completely stop working over the weekends, which has been nice.
Yeah, that's really good. I think you also say that you were like training for a marathon or something.
I was training for a 10K, so I did 6 miles for the first time this past Saturday.
Really? That's awesome. How does it
Yeah.
feel?
It feels very rewarding, like being physically challenged is really nice and seeing your progress. Like I feel like in anything that you do, it's always very self-rewarding to say like, okay, like I did this, I finished this. So that has been really nice.
Did you always like running?
No, I just started running this past year.
Really? How did you get into that then?
One of my friends invited me to a run club. So we have a few run clubs here in Chicago, and we have a lot of Latino run clubs. So she invited me to one, and I was really bad at running. Like I couldn't run without stopping every 2 minutes. And so seeing that progress from last summer, like I couldn't run for 2 minutes to now running for more than an hour straight has been like a really self-rewarding thing.
Yeah, I bet that's really nice. I feel like I do like running. I feel like I am not good at gym stuff, but like running is one of the things that I like doing. And like if you, as you said, like enjoying the 3 months of nice weather you have is the best thing you can do.
Yeah.
So going back to your research, how do you find people to, because like your research is based on experiences, how do you find the people that you're gonna interview for your research?
For me, I will say it was easy because I have a platform and I have access to the people that I'm interested in talking to. So,
Mhm.
because I've had the page for a couple of years, I've put myself out there. I already established trust with a lot of people who I'm asking to get interviewed. So, for me, it was really easy to have access to my participants because I just posted a flyer. I asked people to take time out of their day to meet with me and they wanted to meet with me and they wanted to share their stories. So that was really easy because I know for other people, when you want to access a certain community, it takes a lot of rapport building. You have to be integrated in the community. And so if you initially don't have access to them or you don't identify with them, it can be very challenging to get interviews.
Yeah, like just I've seen a lot of emails. Like I get emails like from people being like, "Hey, like this person from this
Mm-hmm.
university is trying to get interviews," or like people to like fill out like sign up
Survey.
to something or fill out a survey. And
Mm-hmm.
I see like how hard it is for people to
Yeah.
get even like answers to that. So I
Mm-hmm.
I fear that it must be hard. And it's nice that you had the platform. Did you imagine that your platform was gonna serve you to get your research done?
Well, because I changed my research, it never occurred to me. But when I got to that point, I was like, well, I have access to all of these communities online. It'll be very easy to put my research out there and get some calls back.
Yeah, that's great. So looking forward, what comes next like to you in the following years?
So this upcoming year, I'll finish my dissertation. I already collected my data. I'm in the writing analysis phase of the PhD. So it's mainly going to be applying to jobs and writing until I land a job and can defend the PhD.
Yeah, so during your PhD, has how have you dealt, I guess, with imposter syndrome?
Yeah, I think I don't use imposter syndrome anymore. I think it was a very self-consuming term that I used to identify with.
Mm-hmm.
But I slowly just rejected the notions of imposter syndrome. And I think to get to that point, it takes a lot of personal work to do on yourself. So I did therapy for a couple of years. I just kind of I don't know how to say it, but I was just sick and tired of feeling bad about myself that I was like, this is not going to be helpful if I need to do certain things. So I think a lot of inner work came before I was able to not feel bad about myself or stress out about a lot of things. I think I had a lot of really bad anxiety in the beginning of my PhD program that I thankfully don't experience anymore.
Did you struggle like with comparing yourself to others in your program?
I did my first year because I was in a new program with new people. I was kind of trying to read the room, like see where I stand. So I definitely my first 2 years I was very bad at comparing myself to other people. But I think like once established in your program, once you're confident and you know what you have to offer, like it becomes easier to have that mindset. So like I still obviously feel bad when I get rejected from things, but I don't beat myself over it. Like I know like that opportunity just wasn't for me. I don't think it has any reflection on who I am and my potential. So it just like it gets easier with the time.
Yeah, and as you said, I guess it's a lot of work on yourself, like knowing
Mhm.
that your worth is not on the things that you get rejected or accepted from.
Yeah.
That's really nice. And then I always ask this question, and
Mhm.
and it's what is like the biggest, like what will be your like main inspiration or mentors that you've had throughout your life, whether personally or professionally?
I think my biggest mentors are peer mentors. So, like I mentioned, in my master's program, I lean towards a lot of my peers and a lot of my friends to navigate these spaces. And I think that's been the case in the PhD as well. Like, I've met a lot of friends online that have been able to mentor and be there and support me and root for me. And so I think the biggest thing that has made a difference is finding people like myself who I'm comfortable with, who I know support me, who I know we can have beneficial relationships with that are outside of being friends. Like, I know that I'm inspired and I know that they can help me grow. I think that has been very transformative for this process. Even if they're not in my department, like, I know I have a group of people that I can go to for support in the PhD program and then outside of it as well.
Yeah, how do you decide who's gonna be like your support system, I guess? How did you decide that?
I think it comes first with like who you can personally click with, like who you relate to, who you feel like you can trust. I think that comes before like, okay, then we can have a relationship that's going to be stable.
Hmm, it's really nice. So, and this is also one of the questions that I always make during the interviews, and it's how would you like to be remembered?
I think I'd like to be remembered as someone who shared their experience navigating graduate school. I want to be very transparent about a lot of the things and also be remembered as like somebody who was a resource or a tool for the community. So I'm always open to answering questions if anybody needs some form of support. If I can help you, like I'll help you, and if I can, I'll try to point you to the person that might be able to help you.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Aidé. Thank you for your time. Thank you for
Yeah,
sharing your experiences and for giving us a little bit of what you are. I think it's really nice that one get to learn from like your experiences, and I am really happy that I got to meet you through Zoom. Though I've been
yeah,
following you for a bit, so thank you so much. If there
thank
is
you.
something that you would like to tell the people that will listen to this interview, this is the time that you have.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to stay connected, definitely follow me on Instagram or TikTok. My handle is at grad conmigo, and I try to keep people posted on just what I'm doing.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you everyone for listening to this interview. I think this interview is going to have captions in Spanish, so please listen to this interview, and I hope you enjoy this interview as much as I did. So have a great day. Bye.
Thank you.